Good afternoon and welcome to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. Tonya Esquibel here every Saturday from noon to 1 with Cross Country Mortgage, Southeast Producing Regional Manager with my co-host Kim Hollingshead, Hollingshead and Associates, real estate attorney. And I'm really excited. I'm always excited about our shows because it's always been a passion of mine to provide education with all the real estate needs that you have, whether it's with a real estate agent. Obviously, we help with the financing. Kim does the closings and protects you when it comes to making sure you got a good title policy, or if you need a 1031 exchange, all those things. But our local team is always standing by, and we've been helping families since 1997 in Middle Tennessee achieve dreams of home ownership, whether that is your own primary residence, your first home, maybe you're an investor and you're wanting to, acquire more properties to your portfolio. Give us a call. We're always standing by. It's just a discovery call to figure out what it is that you're wanting to accomplish and us putting together some options for you to help you achieve those goals. One of the biggest ways to build wealth is through real estate. So call our local team, always standing by at 300-0794, 300-0794. So today's show, we're basically basing it on the fact of what does it look like if you want to build a custom home? How do you go about finding land? And we have the best expert in my 28 years that I've met that has a great model, a great program to be able to help you achieve that. And we were talking about anyway, I'll go ahead and introduce you and then I'll go into Brad Schaubert with eXp Real Estate. But we were just talking about, most people are scared. What does it look like just to buy a townhome or a single family home? And how many people are scared to even know what it looks like to do a custom home and find the land? It's a little intimidating, but not if you're working with the right person that can put that together for you. And so instead of buying that, older home that you like the location, but you've got to go in and gut it and remodel it just because it's not your style or what you want, there's opportunities to be able to not be scared of new construction. And so that's our show today, is to provide education around on how to build your dream home. And Brad, thank you so much. I mean, you've taught me. You've done a turnkey model on this, and I think you approached me probably, I don't know, back in maybe 15 years ago. It's been a while. And I was like, that is brilliant. So let our listeners know what your website is, introduce yourself, and give us a little bit of background.
All right. I am Bradley Schaubert, getfreefloorplans.com. I own the Builder Resource Group. Been doing this going on 20 years. So I created the Builder Resource Group 14 years ago. And it has been a fun ride ever since. I got a lot of fun stuff to talk to you about today. So anywhere from land to the biggest topic right now is barn dominiums. Oh my gosh, they are coming out of nowhere. I built one and all of a sudden I'm getting orders like crazy for these. So what would we like to talk about first?
So I would say a lot of times people don't really know what to look for in land. And I will just kind of give you an idea. So let's where I'm going with this conversation. So my daughter wants to buy land, build a home. She lives in LA. She's trying to manage the property from here. The land that was bought did not have soils done. You don't even know what you can build. Those are things where some people go, oh, I just want this land and I want to build a house. And they close on it, not even knowing what they can build. So sometimes land is cheap, not knowing what you can build on. And I've owned this property. I owned it for a year and then she bought it from me, but 2 years to try to get soils to know exactly what we can build on this. How crazy is that? So help us from that standpoint, because you will see land prices that are cheaper, but what's the topo? What is the, you get into all those details.
Okay, so the first thing you need to do, and you just need to reach out to me and we do like a 30-minute consultation via Zoom. That way I can fit as many appointments in per day. And over that, I go, who, what, when, where, and budget. That's what I accomplish. It's the same conversation over and over. A lot of people think, oh, I found this $80,000 5-acre tract. Well, in Middle Tennessee, there's probably a reason. The topo, the rocks, it won't perk. And I go over all of this stuff. But really, my price is the price to build a home. And we can pick that price up and take it all over Middle Tennessee within a few little, anywhere from permits, or a septic tank might cost a little bit more. But let's say the home, based on whatever square footage, is $500,000 and you had a $600,000 budget. I'm going to have to be the bearer of bad news. Maybe we need to go with a little bit smaller home, or a little less, no outdoor fireplace on, you know. So then we piece it all together, and then that really gets you your start. So think about it. Now my website, getfreefloorplans.com, is 28,000 floor plans on there. But once you put your criteria in, it narrows it down to about 100. So then you find your perfect one, and my in-house architect, he'll make it exactly how you, where the mud room or whatever you want to do with it. But now we have the floor plan. Meanwhile, me and my team are out finding you the perfect piece of land. And if you go on Land to Build on TN, let me say it again because it's on my Facebook group. It's the #1 Facebook group in Tennessee for land. There's 10 to 20 off-market properties per day that come onto there. Okay. So I really love land. So about 14 years ago, I became an expert at land and construction. And that's really what I do. I'm a real estate agent, but really I specialize in construction and land. There you go.
So you're finding off-market properties and basically listing them on your website?
No. Actually, it was an accident. I said, you know what? I keep getting all these wholesalers and everybody sending them, and then I got a text message all my investors.
Yeah.
I said, why don't I just start a Facebook group? Yeah. And now it's organic.
Oh, nice.
It's really kind of cool,
that
actually.
Nice.
So now it's organic, and there's no spam on there or anything. So think about that. I'm finding out something that 99% of real estate agents can't find out.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of bring to the table.
So, and just looking at that, if someone is sitting here listening right now and have always wanted to maybe build their home, the first step, I think, is just setting up that Zoom call with you to walk
it's just
through.
a 30-minute conversation. Actually, the customers love it because they're knowledgeable. Some of them say, you know what, Brad, this is just too much. We don't have a year to do this. Because let's go over timelines.
Yes, that's
finding
perfect.
the land, doing everything I need to do, finding the floor plan, putting it all together, and building you the home typically takes 9 months to a year. Let's just be real there. I want everybody to know that. So by the end of this conversation, they're like, well, we like you as a person. We want you to be our real estate agent, and then I'll go and find you a house that I think I heard someone say earlier that might need a little bit of work. Well, I still got the crews. So that's another thing that I can bring to the table. We found one, but we need this wall removed. We want an addition, a fourth bedroom. We want the outdoor kitchen. We want it spiced up. Well, my crew can come in and do that, and Tonya can do the financing.
Yeah, for sure.
Shameless plug. Sorry about that.
I like it. I was just in the middle of a drink then. And I never drink these. It's sparkling ice caffeine. My brother left these here, and I'm like, I don't know if I like this or not.
Oh, it looks
Anyway,
good.
back to land.
Yeah.
And back to a great promo. I appreciate it as always. You can call me at 300-0794, and we'll be happy to identify what it looks like for you to get started on building your dream home. But, I mean, every home so my first home was a townhome. And after that, we built every single one of our homes up until the last 2 years. It was my first time to buy a single family that was already built. And that was in Florida, our beach house. And then the other was in North Carolina, the log cabin that we bought just this last year. Now, let me tell you why I'm sharing that, okay?
Yeah.
Because when you go and you buy an existing home, there's a down payment off that purchase price, to where depending on where banks are at the time, if you do construction loans, you can get into really nice homes and maybe build your custom dream home without any money out of your pocket as far as a down payment. So if I go buy $1 million home, 20% down, $200,000, right?
Right.
So where if I build $1 million home, but that always goes back to where the banks are lending wise. So where are you seeing banks at right now? Because I know I built our home, I think 7 years ago, here in Edge Hill, the Gulch, Music Row area.
Yeah.
And was pretty much no money out of my pocket when I did that because it was just a different lending environment. Where are you seeing the construction side of it? And I know we do construction loans as well through Cross Country, but I wanted to see, since you have, a team of local banks, what are you seeing for consumers right now?
Okay, now they're going to go off of the appraisal first and foremost. So
versus the sales price like an existing.
So I'm going to give you just fictitious numbers here.
Yeah.
So let's say the home is $1 million and it appraises at 1.2. They still want some skin in the game. All right. Where once upon a time I could get you in no money, and you might actually correct me and say, Brad, I can do it with no money down. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. But no, seriously, they're wanting 10% out of pocket. And then one thing that I'd love to brag on is I'm going to build you a home. I'm the investment-minded real estate agent. So you're going to get a home built by us at 100, 200, or 300,000 in the good day one. And that's just because of strategic planning. Here's your budget. Let's go out and find the land. What are the neighbors selling for? Here's what I build for. Before you even put an offer on that property, you know what I'm going to be able to bring to the table day one. And 14 years ago when I came up with this concept, real estate got exciting again.
Yeah. Well, it's still exciting to me too. We got to take a break, but I do want to circle back around on this conversation because there is some niches out there that you can still get 100% financing. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you're just now tuning in, we're talking about what does it look like to build a home and to build a custom home, to go find some land, have a turnkey process, someone that can help you do that. And Bradley Schaubert definitely can do that. And he came up with a great concept, a great niche to help educate people when it comes to finding land and building their own construction homes. And we know that, you know, doing this, you opened up Builders Resource Group about 14 years ago. I met you when you first did it. Thought you were a genius coming up with a concept. It was amazing. And it's always, you know, depending on what banks and stuff are doing as well. We were just talking about that. So if you're just tuning in, we were talking about most of your banks are going to be looking at a 10% down. They look at appraised value versus sales price, which Brad shared that with us. I kind of shared my story of how I was able to, at certain times and seasons when we built home, be able to not put anything into it just because they use the equity off the appraised value versus buying an existing home is off a sales price, and you definitely got to come up with cash for that. So new construction is a wonderful way to build some equity, sometimes not have to put as much money down. And before the break, I was saying, I think I can share how to do less than 10% down, maybe do 100%. So these are the niches with that, okay? So at Cross Country Mortgage, we do have a construction loan program that if you are a veteran, we give you 100% for your construction loan. And you know, that could be $1.5 million home, $1.8 million home. So if you are a veteran for serving our country, then we will loan you 100% construction loan for you to be able to build your home. Second, if you're not a veteran, do I still have to put 10, 15, 20% down? No. You could qualify for an FHA and only do 3.5% down. So those are the niches outside of that. And you know that with FHA and our surrounding counties, you know, it's almost $800,000 loan amount. So that could put someone building, you know, a really nice home if you can get with Brad, find the right land, get the right building. And I think the thing that I want to talk about with this is it is intimidating. People think it costs way too much money. It just depends on who you're talking to. Depends on, like I said, are you a veteran? Or most people will just, you know, most banks with construction lending will just throw you into a conventional, but maybe you can do it for 3.5% down and do an FHA versus having to come up with 10%. I think the other thing that's intimidating is, how do I find my land? How do I find my blueprints? And that is what you bring with the Builders Resource Group is all of that value. And then the next question is, well, how do I find a builder? Is it a reputable builder? You know, are they going to do cost plus? So kind of talk about, I almost feel like I can come in and sit down with Brad and say, this is what I want. And he's got a step planned out every single the way to help. That discovery call is 30 minutes, finding out what you're looking for, what you want. And then you actually help them through the process. So the consumer's not the one that's, I got to go find a realtor to find my land. Then I got to go interview builders. Then I got to go hire an architect. So kind of go into a little bit about what that looks like after that discovery call and you identify my goals.
Sure. Even my company even does the project management now. So we're at the job site literally 4 days a week, 5 days a week, somewhere in there.
That's incredible.
Okay. So whenever, who, what, when, where, and budget. All right. So who are you and where do you want to live? Is schools important? I go over all the normal real estate agent. You know, I put my real estate agent hat on. The last question was budget, but who, what, when, where. So when we talk about what, I ask all your wants and needs, and now you get actually exactly what you want instead of what's available. As a real estate agent, we all know a year ago and 2 years ago, people were just taking what they can get. I mean, this is the only one available. If we don't put an offer in 5 minutes, you're not even going to get it anyways. I didn't do any of those. I literally said, why don't we just take a breath, continue renting for just a few more months and let me build you exactly what you want because I have all the land in the world. So that's a really good feeling when all of my coworkers were just screaming at the market and how terrible it is. So, okay, well, now prices on construction have actually settled down. So my lumber prices are 70% less than what they were in the height and everything. Now we have plenty of time to talk for that 30-minute consultation. And if you don't have the 9 months that it takes to build a custom home, then we'll go out and look at what's on the market. And then maybe even in that decision, you're going to be like, all right, let's re-talk about the building thing. There's nothing out here that we exactly want. Yeah, I see that a lot, actually.
I think with so if they can't find anything or don't want to wait 9 to 12 months, we had talked about, okay, you're going to go find them as a licensed real estate agent, an existing home that maybe needs renovations.
Yes.
You've got the crew.
I've got the crew.
You've got the people to
even
do it.
Almost on the spot, I can even give you ballpark prices on how much would granite be to remove this wall. It's $1.90 a foot for painting, that kind of thing. I have all that memorized. So
you can help them see what they maybe can't see, but also even put a dollar amount to that. So that's brilliant because a lot of agents don't have that skill set.
I was going to say that, 99% probably would say, let me get you with a contractor. And then now the house is sold. Let's just do it right then and there. And I can get you within a few $1,000s of exactly what it's going to cost.
So then when you say that, I'm thinking the next question is going to be, how do I get the money to do it?
Well, my next question would be to ask you.
And that is true. We can actually loan you the money to do your renovations on that existing home.
What's the name of that loan?
And it's just a renovation loan, home improvement loan. And it's not like the typical banks, because normally when you do a renovation loan, you go to the bank, you get like a line that's tied to prime, which prime right now is 7 3/4. You'd be 7 3/4. You'd be prime plus 1 probably most of the time, 8 3/4%. So our renovation loan, whatever your permanent rate is that you qualify for, you pay interest only on that. And then once the renovations are done, then you just start into principal and interest, and you don't have to worry about refinancing to where on the other you've got modification fees and things like that. So it's a wonderful renovation program. I know that that's always the first thing that people, say is like, oh, I love this home, but I've got to come up with my down payment because it goes back to the sales price. They are going to have to put something in. It's not like we can go off appraised value. We have to go off sales price. And that is where it's like, okay, with my down payment, my closing costs and prepaids, plus a $20,000, $30,000 renovation, I don't think I can afford it. And that's where we team up together to educate and say, yes, you can afford it. You just need to have the right vehicle and the right financing options to be able to help you, and the right person to find the home and be able to be on the spot to get you within $1,000 to $2,000 range of what that renovation would look like.
And renovation expectations, like you said, $20,000 or $30,000. That's probably only 20 to 30 days, and then a full gut and everything I can usually accomplish in 90 days. So
wow, that's awesome.
Just to give customers on the radio.
Yeah. Cool. If you would like to get some more information, you can call our local team standing by 615-300-0794. Also, if you're just now tuning in, you can hop on to our podcast and listen, and then also our YouTube and our social media platforms as well. And Bradley Schaubert, Builders Resource Group, you can Google that, and that's how you can get in touch with him to find out more information about what does it look like to build on your own lot, to build on your own land, or like we've been talking about, maybe it's a renovation opportunity and you just don't know how to pull all that together from the construction side and it's overwhelming, and then the financing side. We're your local team here to help you. And we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to continue on to talk a little bit more about what's happening when it comes to cost of building right now. Brad brought up a great point. Prices are finally down when it comes to lumber. Yes. But we're going to talk about barn dominiums, supply chain, and labor. I want to get your thoughts on that, because I know that was something we were really having challenges with about a year ago. So just to give us a market update on what that looks like. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In studio with me today, we're talking everything to do when it comes to land, new construction, renovating, maybe renovating your home currently, or buying a new home that you just are like, I love this location, but I just don't like this wall right here. I need to redo the kitchen. Bradley Schaubert is in studio with us with eXp Real Estate, helping us understand the education behind that. He's got a great platform. And then I have my co-host Kim Hollingshead in studio as well, Hollingshead Associate, real estate attorney. And during this segment, we are going to be talking about
Barndominiums and tiny homes
which
also.
is like a new little launch that you're doing because they're becoming so popular. And I can't, I'm like, barndominium. That's like such a big word for me.
No, it's starting to spell it. Thank God my phone can spell it for me now. I'm like, okay, good, we're good. All right.
But you're so correct in being so forward thinking. Like you came up with Builders Resource Group 14 years ago. And it's interesting that you brought that up today during the break because I've had 2 clients in the last 6 months. One wanted to refinance one, and it was like over like $1.2 million. And his sister had one that was over $1.8 million down the road. And so I'm like, my daughter now wants to do one on the land we're talking about, but we're still waiting for the soil scientist to see if we can put a bathroom in there.
Yeah, he'll just get around to it when he gets around to it.
Oh, yes, I guess.
Goodness.
I mean, it's been 6 months just for him to do his part.
That's
I mean,
right.
it took 6 months to get the surveyor out there.
Yep.
So what you want to do if you're buying raw land, since we're in that conversation really quick, is make sure you talk to Brad. Don't just think that land is
No.
just, if it's cheap, there's a reason why it's cheap. It's either they don't know the soils on it and what you can build on it, which why would you buy land that you don't know what you can build on? Maybe you're just hopeful, or 2, the topo is going to cost so much more money.
Land development.
If it's on a ridge and you're building on the ridge, it sounds great. You're going to have this beautiful downtown view, but how expensive is it going to cost to get up there, cut in the roads?
That's right.
So there's always a reason if you're seeing land that's just like seems like a super, super good deal. Does not mean it's not a good deal. Just make sure you're working with someone that really has their education and due diligence, that they know how to make sure it's a good investment, or at least be able to show you all the things, the questions to ask when you're negotiating that contract. And Bradley is the person. Yes.
So I sell a lot of land, and please, real estate agents, if you're listening right now, try to instruct your clients to get a soil scientist out there to at least find out how many bedrooms, because I'm not going to let any of my clients buy that property without a contingency anyways, and that could take 3 to 6 months, like you already know, right, Tonya? So just get it done before you list the property. Otherwise, it's just going to sit anyways, and then they might not want it after 6 months of thinking about it. We want them to be happy with where they chose and not just waiting around. Well, heck, this whole building process just isn't worth it. Let's just go buy something. No, and so that's one thing. Now, Modern Barn, let's talk about that.
Well, before we move to Modern Barn, I have to say this, and I might upset some realtors that are out there, and I'm sorry if I do, but if you list land and you do not know what you don't know, you should not be listing it, in my opinion. That puts your seller into unexpected expectations. It puts the buyer into a contingency of trying to get soils, and there's only 20 something, I don't know if it's 20, 22, 25 in the entire state of Tennessee that does soil testing.
I mean, you're just getting on somebody's schedule.
As a listing agent, you should not list that land unless you have your seller do that due diligence. And I see it all the time. And I'm like, it's not a good service to that seller or to the buyer. And it's just tying up that property to where if that seller was educated on how to be proactive to get the soils and the science, then you would have a much better, smoother transaction all the way around.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'll see a listing and it'll say 3 to 6 bedrooms. I mean, and you're like, what does that even mean? It's just like a range of what you think it would perk for, you know?
When I call a real estate agent, ask them like 3 or 4 magic questions, they don't even know how to answer the questions. I'm like, how did you even get this listing? Oh my God. At least co-list it with somebody that knows.
That's where I was going. If you don't know and you have a client that, you know, maybe it's your loyal client or it's referred from a past client, call Brad and you guys work together on that listing to make sure that you're giving good service back to the client. So that's where I was going with that, because, you know, I don't do commercial loans. So I'm going to refer it to someone that does commercial loans instead of my company will let me broker it to someone, but that's not my lane. That's not my expertise.
I refer
I
all
do
my
residential.
commercial.
Yes, I do residential loans.
I want to talk about that, and I didn't even think about talking about this. Agents out there, if you have land, I will co-list it at no commission. Just call me. I promise. And I'll probably end up getting a build out of it because of my strategic marketing. We'll get it sold quickly for your seller, but I don't want your commission. I'm not coming in on your commission, but you want me to help you, I promise.
Yeah, that's where you're really providing the service for your seller.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And you should, if you're listing land, you should like you said, what are some of the key questions that a real estate agent should ask a seller? They should know this information when they list it.
Always going to come down to your first thing is septic. Is it on septic? Okay, great. How many bedrooms? Oh, you haven't had the soil scientist out there yet. You haven't had a surveyor out there. Do you want to subdivide it? Does it have encroachments, easements, water on the property, a flood zone? I got a 16-step checklist. That's because I forget some questions. So I've dummy proofed it. So that way I don't forget, because that's legality. That's your lane right there.
Well, now, but they're going to say buyer beware.
Yeah.
They're always going to say it's up to the buyer to do their own inspection.
No, but
however,
agent might not know.
I agree. You can't. It's not fair to put all of that on the buyer. Then what happens is the first person who's putting in the offer gets to incur all the expenses, like Tonya was saying, right? Because they're the ones conducting all of the tests.
Yes.
Well, let's just talk about cost-wise with that. So if you go into, so we bought our land purchase, and same advertisement that said, and it's literally at less than a half a mile on the same road our son lives. And so we were looking at it because of the new grandbaby. We're like, I'm sure it'll perk for a 1-bedroom, but it was advertised like you were talking about earlier, 3 to 4 bedrooms. And we were under a multiple bid situation with it. And so we went a little over asking price, and we did put a contingency in there because anyone would know that. Well, what happened was it took us 75 days past closing, and we still did not have a surveyor that would go out there, because you've got to realize this was 2 years ago. The market was pretty hot, so I couldn't get a surveyor out there. You got to get a surveyor before you can get the soil scientists, because they got to mark everything. So again, it goes back to, if you're in this environment and wanting to do this, you've got to work with a professional, with Bradley. And if you're a listing agent out there, or any real estate agent, team up with him. He's a wealth of knowledge. But to give consumers an idea of what that cost looks like. So even though your land might be discounted and you're like, wow, I can get this land in Davidson County, we are already $16,000 into a survey without knowing what we can still build on that property.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and that's part of the risk of developing
buying
land
without having all of that done. So
I would say that's one of the things that probably most consumers think of, probably gut reaction when they hear, well, find the land and let me build something on it, is that uncertainty. Like, oh no, I've heard all the horror stories of a builder coming in, and people, they thought they were going to build a house for X number of dollars, and it turned out it cost twice as much. And how do I know? I'm not an expert. how do I know I'm doing the right thing? And what I love about your company is that you guys are really just handling everything soup to nuts for people. You're a very well-known real estate agent.
Thanks
I think all the agents who are listening today probably know who you are, Brad. And then with this company, the fact that you've kind of taken all of that uncertainty out of the process for the consumer, and you have a track record that you can prove where you've done this so many times
and perfected it.
Over 300 custom homes, over 300 custom homes in 14 years. Yeah, so we're getting there.
Something.
Yeah, we're getting there.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of land that I had to go through to get to those 300. So,
it is.
Yes.
Okay, so I just had to elaborate on that just a little bit, since we were talking about land and the prices of land during the show. And look, I just took up our whole segment, and we got to talk about modern barns. We've got a few more minutes, but let's start getting into modern barns. What does that look like? Because that's, you're on top of the cutting edge of something that's very popular. It's happening.
So I had one of those moments in life where you're in business and you're teeter-tottering on the fence. Do I do this or don't I? And that same thing that happened in 14 years ago, right? 2009. Well, a lady said, Brad, if you can build me this barn dominium, we'll go ahead and go with you right now. And I was like, okay, I'll build it. And I was like, oh crap, I don't know anything about them. So I started doing all my research, and I started talking to all my builder friends, and I started talking to people that do modern barns or barns, dominiums in other states. So I learned, and it actually wasn't that bad. But now, after building our first one, and now we're getting orders like crazy, I'm in love with them myself.
Yeah.
What guy doesn't want a 7-car garage? Come on.
Yeah.
The first one I built was like 2,000 square feet, completely open, 20-foot ceiling. So she was happy on 5 acres, which I found him a good deal on the 5 acres. And then the 7-car garage, I was like, all right, I have to have one of these myself.
I mean, we're way beyond man cave at that point. Yeah, it's extended to
you had the
whole
RV,
new
you
level.
had the classic car, he had everything, plus his workshop. Oh, I was in love myself. So, so there you go. That's how I came up with the idea. So I was like, man, I need to really capitalize on this because it's a niche. I started playing around with YouTube, and it was like it's like 1.5 million views on just a normal video. And I was like, all right, there's people out there that want these. So that's how I came up with the name Modern Barn. So that's my sister company now.
Okay. So is it modernbarn.com?
It is not. It's Modern Barn LLC. Go to getfreefloorplans.com right now. I have the website guys working on it right now.
Okay.
It'll be ready like maybe 20 more days. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Nice.
But isn't that such a cool concept that, it kind of reminds me because, I'm from East Texas. And so my grandpa would always build these barns and have all these garages, and he'd have a little apartment in the back. And I'm like, who would want to live there? But now they're so gorgeous because, like you said, it's like the 20-foot ceiling. It's just, you're taking something and maximizing it to a whole nother level. And I mean, price-wise,
You're going to save. I'm very impressed. I just did like a 2,000 square foot home with a 7-car garage for just a smidge under 400.
Wow. Not including the land. But
Not
this
including
is your
the land. Thank you for
construction costs, yes.
acknowledging that.
Yeah.
And the guys that are actually putting the barn up, they're Amish. I recruited a whole crew from Kentucky, and they come to Nashville and
They raise the barn.
Yeah, they raise the barn, and they literally get it done in 2 days, and they're awesome, and the quality can't be matched, period.
Wow.
So I'm putting systems in place right now. I want people to think, when they think of barns, they think of Brad. I don't know why. I'm excited again. This is like
I think
2009 when I
So,
first came up with the Builder
I'm
Resource
excited
Group.
again.
I'm excited.
You know why? Because when I finally get soils, my daughter's going to need that modern barn because that's what she wants.
Good care
yes.
of you. You know that. Yes,
All right. We got to take
great.
a break right now. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. When we come back, we want to dive a little bit into lease purchases and what are the benefits of what that looks like if you're a seller out there and if you're a buyer. So stay tuned. And our show today has been all about building, land, new construction, renovation. I'm going to say modern barn because, I will not say it right if it's a barn dominium. I did it.
You did.
But in studio with me is my co-host, Kim Hollingshead and Associate Real Estate Attorney, and Bradley Schaubert with EXP.
Yep.
So do we have anything to add to the barn dominium, the modern barn conversation before we jump into lease purchases?
Okay, so once again, pricing, yes, it's about 25% less. The financing, as you know, it's doable. You can get 100% FHA. You can do all kinds of things with that as well. So, no, lease purchases, here we come.
All right. So who's going to kick off lease purchases? I'd like to maybe kick it off from a buyer's standpoint. Just from the financing side, maybe you don't have to go through a stringent underwriting, or maybe the bank is requiring a bigger down payment. Prime is at 7 3/4 right now. So if prime continues to rise, you're already paying 8.75%, probably prime plus 1 interest only on it. Mm-hmm. So as a buyer, it might be very attractive to, consider a lease purchase, to where a year ago when interest rates were so low, I don't think it would have been as attractive as a buyer. But what would be the benefit from a seller?
I've got from a seller. Now, that's a whole different thing. I usually represent the buyer. So
do you want to get the benefit for the buyer on your side?
Yeah, I'm just going to give you how I feel about it and how it's benefited some of mine. So I have a big-time New York investor, and he wants me to find him property and then do lease purchases on them. But the fun thing about doing it with me is we get to go shop for the home. As long as it's 15 years old or newer, which people like newer homes, it's less commitment. Because right now, the market, where's it going? Middle Tennessee, we both know that it's pretty insulated. But there's still that uncertainty. Or what if you just moved here and you don't know where you want to live, but you don't want to rent and waste your money on rent? The good thing is you lock into today's prices. You have 5 years to make good on financing. Most people do it within 1 year. And if for some reason, as long as you didn't tear up the house after 1 year, if you want, Brad, we found this foreclosure, or we found this great deal on this house, or we want to build a home with you, or whatever the case may be, you can walk away and you get your deposit back, which is only anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. So there's a lot of benefits of locking in today's prices. Yeah, what if the market dropped 50,000? Well, you don't have to stick with it. I'm an investment-minded kind of guy. And that's how I always go. And I'm like, this is pretty safe right now. Now, I really liked it when my investor would have me build houses, and then I would just lease purchase those out as well, which I can still do. But usually those are $450,000 and under. Okay, but we can go all the way up to $1.5 million. I just got a phone call from a builder. He said, if you want to do your lease purchase program, in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Come on. I like what you're doing over there, Brad.
That's pretty
That's
awesome.
pretty smart.
Yeah.
Well, on the commercial side, it could be beneficial if you're doing multifamily as a seller. So you would ask, well, what's a benefit for a seller? So on the seller side, it could be beneficial if you want to take advantage of the cost segregation by doing a lease purchase whereby you lease it for a year. Then the closing for the purchase takes place after you've already taken advantage of your tax benefits. That can help save and offset some of your expenses. But on the commercial side, the way I've always done it, and tell me how it's different on the residential side, is that we always require the purchase. So the lease and the purchase are one agreement. They're incorporated together, and you're going to lease it for a year, and then you're required that deposit converts into earnest money, and then you buy it. Right?
That's exactly right.
That's what we love to see on a lease purchase, right? But you were saying that they could possibly not buy with your program.
Well, yes and no. So my buyer from New York buys the property and then does a lease purchase with them. So that one of my clients had some credit issues. She went through a divorce, so on and so forth. I think it's only a 580 credit score. We got her up to, I think like 620. And then someone like Tonya Esquibel actually did the financing for the permanent financing, but it took her about 9 months to get her credit where it needed to be.
Oh, yeah. I love that it gives people that flexibility in the financing. You can always buy before the lease is up too, right? So like you said, there was a year lease. She ended up buying in 9 months.
It's good for 5 years.
For 5 years. That's great.
So you can do anything you want within that 5 years. You can move out, you can lease purchase it, you can finance it and then sell it and make the profit, you know, because if it went up 150,000, don't leave. Let me go sell it for you, and you get to walk away with a big check also.
Right.
So
and then you've probably
Wow.
reestablished your credit, and now you've got more money to go and buy another home at that point. So
Yeah, it gives you time to save.
do you think that, just from your guys' professional opinion, that we will see more lease purchases as we start to see interest rates rise? And obviously people are affected by the economy with 40-year high inflation. Do you think we'll see more of those on the radar? Like, I want a mortgage, you know, of course, and help them get their own financing, but I'm just seeing, are we going to go back into that way? What is your professional opinion on that, Brad?
It's really happening in Europe, and I think we're about 5 to 10 years behind them typically in that. So I'm going to go ahead and say renting might be the norm one of these days, and I hate to say that. I want people to be homeowners, but when a first-time home buyer has to have $1 million sales price, that scares me a little bit. I mean, you'd have to live 100 miles outside of Nashville maybe 10 years from now, and that scares me. So I think builders are going to start, you're going to see a lot of new construction doing that so they can take a little bit of pressure off their shoulders. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer here, but I think because of the market conditions that have softened, they're not bad, but they have softened, I think we're going to actually start seeing that a little bit more and more and more.
And I'm seeing some seller financing offers out there on some properties that will include like a $5,000 prepayment penalty as well. So that the seller's making sure that they're getting their money out of it.
That they get the return on it. From a title standpoint, what's your recommendation if a seller is going to do a lease purchase and a buyer is going to, you know, entertain that? How do they protect themselves to make sure the paperwork's done right and no surprises?
Exactly. Always turn that over to your attorney, right? Your title attorney should be
Which is
reviewing
Kim
that.
Hollingshead.
Yes.
That's right.
Ideally. So you would have your attorney review the agreements, make sure that they're joined together properly. And then, ideally your title attorney can hold the security deposit for you as well, so that if there's any, but you know, a lot of sellers want to hold that, and then the earnest money will turn over to the title attorney, but there's not going to be a closing until that purchase goes down.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, let's just say if you're a first-time home buyer and the prices are too high or the interest rates are too high, let's at least talk about a duplex or something just to get your feet wet. And then I know I can go on and on about this, but I just helped a single mom buy a duplex. She thought it was impossible to live anywhere near Nashville. But the rent, and you'll tell me a little bit more about the financing. I have good common sense, but that helped her get approved. So she's living in the left side. And when someone says, I don't want a neighbor that close, I'm like, hold on, you're living in an apartment currently.
Yes.
It's only one neighbor. It's not 900 of them. Let's be real here. At least you're a real estate owner.
Yes. Yes.
So that means a lot to me.
You're a real estate owner at that point, plus a real estate investor.
Yeah.
duplexes, triplex, fourplexes. Those are all great opportunities. Usually I would recommend probably starting with a 1 to 2 unit if it's your first time. And then you owner occupy the one side, and then the other side, whatever the appraiser says that unit can rent for, then we give you 75% of that monthly amount to help you qualify for it. So that helps. Like a lot of times people think I just can't afford it.
Right.
Well, we're giving you income. So roughly if it's $1,000, we're giving you an extra $750 a month to be able to qualify.
Towards their income.
Toward their income.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
great. I knew there was something like that.
Yeah, so that's super exciting and a very good point when it comes to, yes, not like the apartment. There's 800-900 people around you. You just got one couple or maybe just one person next door.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for coming in today to educate our listeners. Kim, as always, it's a pleasure. And
Thank you,
Bradley,
Bradley.
thank you
Yes,
for coming
thank you
in
so
with
much.
Builders Resource Group, EXP Real Estate. Be sure and tune in next week from noon to 1 to the Tonya Esquibel Real Estate Show. I hope everyone has a blessed week, and please call us locally if we can help you with any of your real estate needs at 615-300-0794.
So much, because I love so many different categories of real estate. Like, I had to throw that duplex in there because
Yes, that was a great.
I had to, because I knew you had the answer for the financing. So
Yeah.
So I already got the land down pat, right? So I'm a good guy to come to even for like building a house. But if you think about it, it's just a niche now. So do I want to be in a sea of real estate agents and builders that are all doing the same thing, or do I want to be on my own island right now? So I asked 10 real estate agents recently, hey, if you were going to build a barndominium, who should you go with? And they're like, I don't know. And that was the answer I wanted to hear. When I knew I wanted to go 100 miles an hour with this business idea, I was like, I want to be the guy. So for the next 12 months, I promise you, I'm going to market myself like crazy. And then when people think of barns and barndominiums, do you know barns are my crew, I order the kit, I lay the foundation, and the crew comes in and puts it up with less than a week. And there's a profit, but it's only 7 days of my life, like instead of 9 months of my life. So I love
They're really trending for like short-term rentals too, right?
I think that's a phenomenal idea. Me and Tanya will be talking here soon, and I mean that. We talk all the time, but I want a wedding venue. I want I'm going to build a beautiful
Who's the agent?
on the back of the property, and I'm going to build that one right there for the whole family to stay in, and then a pond in the back with little tiny homes around it. So when somebody has a wedding, they get to stay there for the week or the weekend or whatever. I just think I'm talking to other people that have wedding venues, and I'm like, at my cost, it's actually not that much to start one. Like, if you paid a Williamson County builder to do all that for you, you might spend $2 or $3 million, but I think I could be all in for $750. Yeah, short-term rental. Who doesn't want to stay in that thing? It's cool as heck. It just screams, let's have social gatherings, family reunions, weddings. I mean, there's so many uses for it. I don't know.
And a place like Nashville.
I know. Tiny homes and barndominiums are sexy right now. So I'm jumping in on the wave right now. I'm like, you know what? 8 years from now, it might be something else, but I'm jumping in on the wave. So
Thanks again if you have your questions.
yep.
I loved it.
Thank
Good job, y'all.
you.
We gotta get a little headshot outside. And then
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do our